Hey everyone, it's Lainey. Welcome back to Crafted by Lucas. So we've got this beautiful floral piece with some hummingbirds from Spellbinders. This is called the Delicate Floral Hummingbirds. And this is been in my collection for a year. Or in 4 days, it will be a year. And I need to break this out and create with it. So fingers crossed that this video turns out and I don't have to start over from scratch. I initially thought that I wanted to do ink blending on paper, but I'm not 100% sure. I did pull some inks here from Concord and Ninth. We've got Sprout, Buttercup, and Honeysuckle. I also brought in the arched dies that I've been using lately from Amazon. But I do know that I want to create a scene with this interacting with an arched way, similar to the card that I made a couple of weeks ago. How we've got the arch there to kind of create like a window pane. So I want to do something like that as well. So what I'm going to do is, okay, so this is an outside layer here that I don't need. So I'm going to cut this big piece out in white, and then these are additional pieces that you layer on top of this here for the hummingbirds and the flowers and the leaves and things like that. So for this, of course, I'm going to have to use my Spellbinders Platinum 6. And I do have extra large cutting plates, but I think the original ones would work fine as well. So this is 80-pound cardstock, and I'm just going to cut this out, and we're going to play with it and kind of see how it looks. I need to layer my plates correctly. Okay, let's run this through. Oh, okay, so I guess we need the outer layer just to cut it out itself. So I've mentioned this before with this piece. I initially wanted to cut this out and put it in a picture frame. And I probably will still do that in the future. But this would be the nice framed piece. And then you could cut the paper pieces and build on top of this. Or do your ink blending, whatever you want. Okay, so I popped out all the pieces, and I don't necessarily have to use this to cut this out. I could just bring in the arch and cut what I want to use from this. But for you guys, if y'all end up wanting to purchase something like this or have something like this in your collection, I want to show you how this can work for other things. So let me grab my tape and tape this down. And then we'll see how this cuts out. Alrighty, so let's see this final cut here. Oh yeah, this is the right side up. You can see the hummingbird there and the hummingbird here. That is so pretty. So this is the base layer. This is the piece that you would do your ink blending on. And then if you wanted to do ink blending for the birds and the flowers, you would use these pieces to cut out those other details, right? So what I'm thinking about doing right now is ink blending this with the Sprout and seeing how that looks, and then we will start to cut this down to size for our archway. So what I think I'm going to do is just start to ink blend this piece, and pretty much kind of going over the entire piece because I've got lots of greenery there. And then, you know, we'll use the paper to cover up the other pieces that aren't supposed to be in the color of Sprout. And just tapping my brush on that color. And I'm doing this also because my brush seems kind of stiff. Not quite sure why, but okay. So I'm going to come in with a really soft hand and just start on the left side here. Uh-oh. And it's very delicate. One other way you could do this is just kind of measure your paper out, have your sizing right, and you could just do a full panel of ink blending if you didn't want to do it this way, because you can accidentally tear things. So I do have to be careful because this is delicate, but personal preference. I'm more of a visual person, so this helps me visualize the final product, so that's why I cut it down. And this piece is also just so large, it was kind of overwhelming. So I just really needed to see it like this. I needed it to be in this state for me to make the next decision on design choice. Alright, so you can see that I placed the sprout all over, but we've got some lighter areas there because we're going to cover those up. And we're also going to cut this down and condense this quite a bit. And I think I really am liking how that is looking. So great choice so far. So now let me start thinking about the panel before we start to add other color. And actually, I'm going to move this aside. Let me clean off my glass mat real quick. I just have some soapy water in here. I'm going to spritz my mat and then just wipe it off with a paper towel and then wash my hands as well because I've got sprout all over the place. All right, so I'm going to bring in some 80-pound cardstock here. And I just have it cut down to size. They're A2 size right now. And let's bring in... And excuse that noise, the AC just cut on. It's probably going to cut on and off a couple times. So I want to create a thick archway, and then I want to bring in some gold as well. So I'm just trying to see how this is going to work out. So what I'm thinking is I will cut that out, and so then I will have that outline space, and then I will come in and cut another one in gold to layer it. We'll see. Okay, so I use my magic mat. So nice. Let's put that over to the side, and then I cut this thin gold piece out, and let's see if this fits. I think this is too big. Okay, so I'm not liking how the layering is looking, but let me bring in my card base. We might just do the gold instead of the white. I don't know. I am not liking that. This is not turning out how I envisioned. But I do know that I want to elevate this archway here. And maybe what's wrong is that it's just too big. I think that that's what it is. I think that I made it just too big. And so what I'm kind of thinking is, let's lay this down. Okay, so there it is with the gold as well. What I'm thinking is I need to decide on the size arch and then cut this down. So decide on the size arch and then also kind of decide on what parts of this I want to have. within this frame here. We also have this bird down here. No, I think the best bet visually is to use this larger bird here. Let me bring in my magic mat. We're gonna line this up. And it is so helpful to have the grid system on the mat as well. And I'm gonna tape this in position, and then we're gonna cut this out and hope for the best. I think it's gonna be okay. So I'm just gonna turn my magic mat over. And here we've got our window, our inside of our window. How pretty, and I love that color. Okay, so I'm gonna bring in our archway here. Place that down. And that's what we've got to work with. That is so pretty. Okay, so now for the next steps. I'm gonna place this to the side just to keep it safe because I don't want anything to happen to it in case I want to bring in other greenery. This looks great though. I love how this is looking so far. So now I'm gonna bring in these other dies here. And I'm thinking that I'm just going to cut it out in white and we'll just continue on with our ink blending. I think that that might be the best bet to kind of keep everything soft. So bringing in some more cardstock here. This is just 80 pound. And what I want to do is lay out the pieces that I know that I'm going to use. So we've got the full hummingbird exposed. So I'm going to grab the body and the wings, and we've got some leaves, different types of leaves there, and I have this over to the side as a reference. We're in this region here, so we'll add that little flower, and then this is the beak and the tail feathers. It's majority of all of this really. So I cut all the little pieces out, and let's just start ink blending and then piecing this stuff together. And then I'll be able to see kind of what else I want to bring in, if I want to bring in extra colors. So for the example here, the body is lighter than the wings. I think I'm going to keep that as is. And so I'm just going to add a little color on my brush. I am using honeysuckle today. And then tapping off that excess. Okay, so what I want to do is just come in super light. Soft hand there, and then small circular motions. And the outer side edges are kind of coming in darker, and that's okay. I think that that just adds, you know, to the detail. And that happens when you cut the piece out and then ink blend. But if you didn't like the darkness around here, then I recommend just doing a little ink blending on your white cardstock and then cutting that out. It would have smoother edges. Let me bring that a little closer to the camera so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. Alrighty, so that is the body. That's cute. So these three parts of the bird are going to be darker. So once again, let's add some color to the brush. And I'm going to come in and we're just going to add a couple of layers here to make sure that it's darker than the body itself. Oh, and you know what? It would be really cute to add, I think I want to add like a purple. Let me grab another color. All right, I've got lilac here. I think that that is a pretty color. Do I want to use that color? I think so. So I'm going to get a new brush here. And I need to tap, tap, tap. Tap off that excess. And now I'm going to add this lilac to the base here. Oh yeah, I'm so glad that I did that. Okay, so I'm gonna grab my tweezers and pick this up. How pretty is that? You can just see a little bit of that purple and then the pink, and it's this wing here. All right, so I think I like it. Let's go ahead and zoom in a bit for you guys. Okay, so y'all can see the coloring a little bit better. And now I'm gonna do the same thing. I need to come in with that honeysuckle, and then I'll add the lilac at the base. I'm going to try to bring in a little more lilac in this one. It is a different angle of the wing, so they're not going to be exactly the same. I definitely need to bring in some more honeysuckle for the tip of that wing there. Okay, so now that I'm looking at the body next to the wings, I think the body does need a little more color. So let's go ahead and let's add a little bit of purple to, I bent it. Okay, add a little lilac to the bottom of the body there. There we go. And then just a little bit more honeysuckle. Oh yeah, that looks so pretty. Okay, the tail feather, the last little piece. Should we make this more purple, or should we keep on with the two-toned? Let's just do olive color here and kind of see how that looks. Okay, now I'm going to come in a little bit with that honeysuckle just for the little tips of the wings. I think that this is so cute, so cute. And then there's our little tail feather. Alrighty, so we are done with those colors for right now. All right, so for the next step, I'm gonna bring in Buttercup and a lighter brush here. And I'm gonna, I don't know if I have much ink on that. It doesn't seem to be really, okay, yeah, very vibrant. I wasn't seeing it, goodness. Okay, so for this little piece here, it is this flower here. And I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna add a little more color to the larger part of the flower, and then we've got this lighter part here, and then we do have some leaves that we need to color and maybe some little bulbs as well. I don't think I even cut out any of the bulbs actually. So okay, so this is the darker piece, and this is Buttercup. Such a pretty yellow. How nice is that? Okay, and then I'm going to kind of feather that color out, just using the remainder on my brush so it's a little softer. Okay, and then I want to really darken this base up a bit to add some contrast and depth to this petal itself. So let's really layer on this yellow here. All right, so I think that that is perfect and needs to be turned around. Oh, I was thinking that it was going to be the other way. I think it's okay. So that's another piece, and then we've got this lighter piece here. And let's just do the same thing. Let's kind of make part of it really, really dark and then have kind of like a gradient, feathering out that color. I'll do my best. This is a smaller piece to work with, so I'm really just kind of painting my fingernail. Okay, so I think that that is done as well. Let's pick this up. And lay it down. And now let's see what parsley will look like. I'll just apply a little bit here. Because the sprout has kind of a yellow undertone, and the parsley is more of like a true green, a true leafy green. So let's see how these colors work together. I think I like it. I think I like the contrast of the different greens, and they do something similar here. Although the colors are reversed, the darkest part is all the lining, and then the leaves are lighter. But I think that we'll just continue on using that parsley with the leaves, and we'll fill that in. And if it doesn't look good, I can just redo it. No worries. I am going to have to cut out a few more leaves and continue on with the ink blending process. So I think I'm just going to speed some of this up and put some music on while I finish this small details of the card. Okay, so you can see how I've kind of pieced some of these pieces together to kind of get the color scheme. That's one of the reasons why I chose to stay with the lilac for these little flowers here. I did bring in this shimmer pack. This is an old Joann Fabrics shimmer pastel collection, and I love this thing. And I went back so many times to try to find this again, and I couldn't. But it's just a really light gold shimmer, and it's soft enough, and I think it's going to complement this so well. So I'm going to put this aside. Now let's finish our die cutting. We've got some elements of the flowers that need to be cut out, and also the beak for our hummingbird. And I'm going to trim this off so it will fit through my die cutting machine. And then we also need the center of the little flowers, which are right there. And then our beak. And I think that's it. Now I'm going to have to cut these out a couple times just because we've got multiple flowers. So let me get this cut out real quick, and then we will build this card and glue everything together. I'm loving how it's turning out. So pretty. Okay guys, so I've got these sequins here from Spellbinders. They're the discs, and they kind of take on whatever color is around them. And I've got some acetate here that I just cut down to size. And what I am thinking is to layer it just like this. So it will be the arch, the ink blending paper, and then the acetate, and then line those up. And then that would be the shaker. I think it's going to look really, really cute. That they need to be kind of spread out a bit because it was kind of lifting up. So what I'm thinking is I need to paper piece this first. So let's move this stuff out of the way. Move this over and bring this in. And I'm going to use my Barely Art liquid glue here. And let's start to glue this stuff down. So let's see here. Let's glue down the wings first. So I'm going to apply some glue on the tail feather. Okay, so I added plenty of glue all over the hummingbird, and we are going to place the wings down first and then place the body on top, and just making sure that it is aligned with its base layer there, and then making sure those wings are actually getting glued down. Alrighty. So this was my original vision for this die set. I wanted to do ink blending, but I really wanted to make this on a larger scale for a picture frame. But I am loving how this is looking with the ink blending. I definitely think that that is what's transforming this. Okay, and then the body on top. Just trying to make sure that the little guy's aligned there. And for the face, we've cut that out in white, and then we cut the beak out in that gold. And what this does is you just layer those two pieces on top of each other. Just like that. I'm not really liking the white, just the stark white face. We might have to add a little color to that. So let's just leave that alone for the time being, and we'll work on the next step here. So these pieces are just fitting perfectly, and I am loving it. So I chose to keep the color scheme similar to this because, you know, like these flowers here were yellow and then the bulbs were yellow. I didn't want to bring in too much color because that would overwhelm the eye, because there is a lot going on already with all the vines behind the hummingbird and the flowers. So let's see here. Let's place this in the correct spot. It's starting to dry. Uh-oh, come on, move over. Move over. Okay, just like that. And I'm really glad that I went with the buttercup. I think it is a nice pop for sure. And then we'll bring in the little soft purple flowers. All right, so let's glue this leaf down. And you guys be sure to just check the description box. I will do my best to link things for you guys that I'm using today. And you can also go follow me on Instagram. I've got my personal Instagram and my Crafted by Lucas Instagram. And I think I've got some, I think I'm sharing my TikTok now too. So you can follow me on those platforms if you would like. Just check the description box. Now, what is this little piece here? I think it is a leaf. Yeah, okay, so it does overlap the flower. So this flower here in the example is purple. But we've got that leaf overlapping that petal. And let's see here. This is another bulb. Leaves there, the bulbs, flower. Okay, so let's add a little color to the face. So I'm going to come in just with this blending brush and using what's on the brush just to add some color here. There's still quite a bit on the brush. Okay, now let's see how this looks now that I've added some color, because I did not like that white at all. Need my tweezers here, but I'm not liking this either, honestly. Okay, so it would be something like that. Okay, yeah, I think that looks just fine. That's better than the white. So let's go ahead and make that permanent as well. I'm just going to add some glue to the beak and then line this up and glue this down. And it does have a cutout for the eye. I can add maybe a little gold detail for the eye. Maybe like that. I think that looks pretty okay. In the picture, it just looks like a black dot, because this is actually one of the center of the flowers, but we'll see. We can make that work. Let's go ahead and glue on the head and the beak. And this little portion here, you won't be able to pick it up on the camera, but it is debossed, so you know where to place the head portion. It's got a little spot for you, and then I'm just lining the beak up and keeping that pressed down while it dries. Oh my goodness, guys, what do y'all think of these colors? How pretty. So pretty. Okay, now let's bring our card base back in, and what I need to do, keep all of those in position there. And where is our arch? Now, I'm going to remove the backing to this. And because I added the foam tape already, this might add a little bit of issues. We'll see. We will see. I need to make sure that I'm really attentive of alignment. Lightly touching that down because it is sticky and exposed. All right, so I've got all of that down. Now let's turn this over and place our acetate down. And actually, let's add some additional adhesive. I'm going to go along the outer edge here and just add a little liquid glue. I'm going to bring in my tweezers. Okay. And I'm going to add additional glue here all along this edge, just to make sure that where the acetate is touching paper, it's still going to get glued down, because I want this to last a long time. I don't want sequins popping out or anything like that, or this even coming apart. Okay, so now the acetate sheet, lining it up at the top, and then I just dropped it down. I'm shifting it over a bit. Oh, goodness. Okay, I think it's in position. And I think I've got enough sequins here. Part of me doesn't think that I have enough, but let's just add some more. Let's just add a couple more. Now I've got to center align this on the card base. And it is not wanting to stick down, so I've got some wiggle room, so that is great. All right, I'm going to get pressed down and just adding us some pressure there as well. Actually, let's grab this and let's just place this on top. And I'm just adding some pressure here, and now it's more evenly distributed, and we'll just get this stuck down. Okay, guys. I think it is glued down. I will just let it set for a few minutes, and it seems to be glued down. So cute. And you can see the sequins in there. I'm loving the colors. Okay guys, let's finish this up. We've got our flowers and then the details to these other flowers there. And I'm going to have this over to the side as a reference. And uh-oh, you know what? This needs to be underneath. I forgot to glue it like that. So let me think here. I might not be able to use... Yeah, I can. I'll just slide it right underneath. Okay, perfect. So what I'm going to do is just use my tweezers and apply a little glue here. And then slide that underneath. And then just press it down and hold it down while it glues to the acetate, because it's going to want to lift up. It's not going to want to stick directly to that acetate. But it just needs a little pressure. And actually, let's just bring in the magnet and set the magnet right on top of that. And that'll help it get glued down a bit better. And now for the flowers. Let's add a flower here in this little area, which is kind of like an open space. Okay. And okay, perfect. And once again, just going to hold that down and get that glued down. We need to add the center to the flower. So let's go ahead and do that. Bringing in that gold once again. I'm loving this. Can't believe it took me so long to bring this out. So simple to do. And so pretty. Sometimes I just get intimidated or overwhelmed and I'm like, that's not for today. And then it just ends up getting put off for way too long. All right, so we've got another flower kind of down at the bottom here. So let's see. Yeah, let's just add it right there in between those two little leaves there. Well, my wax tool's not wanting to stick. Okay. A little bit of glue on that paper piece. And then once again, the center of the flower needs this little gold accent. Okay, so we've got two flowers. Let's see here. Where can we add another flower? Ooh, maybe we can have it kind of interacting with the frame. Let's see here. I think that that is the right touch, honestly. Okay, so let's make this one permanent here on this arched frame and this piece here. I'm not sure if this piece right there, because this flower is so close. May have to move it up. I think that might be a better placement. Okay, I gotta add the center of the flowers real quick. While I'm kind of thinking about placement for that. All right, I'm gonna make this permanent here. And the last little piece is the gold accent. Get it turned over. Perfect. So I've got these dies from Walmart and it's a script font and I used it for a card a couple of weeks ago. I used this Celebrate. Oh, you know what? I've got the hugs cut out already. Let me pull that. I cut it out the other day when I was making my other card because I was trying to choose from the Celebrate or Hugs. So for the other card that I made a couple weeks ago, I used the Celebrate in the same gold, and I think we're going to use it again. And I got this thing on sale. It was a couple dollars. What do we think about that? You know what? I'm just going to glue it down here in the bottom corner, and I'm going to have it angled So it's interacting with the white and the color, so that I will be able to make this out. And then it's interacting with both as it should, so it's cohesive. And I think, let's move it down a little bit so that S isn't hanging off too much. I'm just using my tweezers to make sure that's stuck down. And I think that's it, guys. I think this is the finished card. We don't need any additional embellishments because we've got that sparkle behind it. You could definitely play around with additional sequins and maybe have the sequins interacting with the top portions if you would like, but I'm just gonna leave it as is. I'm so glad I made this into a shaker card. I never do that on the channel. So I hope you enjoyed this card build. Please give it a thumbs up if you did, and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next card or craft. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this one. Bye, everyone.